Hi, this is Alicia Davon, and I will be your guide through this introduction to advanced sensual practice and extended orgasm. Here, Erwan is talking about having a sensual practice and introducing extended orgasm.
A sensual practice where you're really researching and you're investigating things like orgasm and stroke speed and pressure and bringing that kind of sophistication into sexual practice and maybe communicating about it ultimately with another person. That's very advanced. It opens up sensuality and sexuality to a completely different place. One of the places that it opens it up to is it opens up to the possibility of orgasm not being something we have that's very short, but orgasm actually being a state of body, the body in a state of release, the genitals continually releasing without us crashing over the edge, right? And intercourse and oral sex and manual stimulation and all of this kind of stuff is a completely different event, completely different experience. Even looks different. We'll be doing a demo.
Often the definition of orgasm out there is that going over the edge, like you reach, and often tense to get to that moment where you go over the edge and you have this rapid set of contractions and it's 6 seconds, 10 seconds, something like that, maybe a little longer, a little shorter, and that's it. That's an orgasm. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fun and that feels good. And our potential is so much greater. Extended orgasm is that level or more of sensation and pleasure and release. Over time, involuntarily, you're in a state of orgasm. Your body can release and feel that much more. As much as you want, really.
Now, Erwan will introduce some of the anatomy and what's actually happening in the body during orgasm and extended orgasm.
It's kind of like dropping the attention from the belly center even lower, in between the sits bones, for example. And if you do that, you'll just notice there's something shaking there. There's the type of muscles there are a little bit different than the other muscles. They just have they just kind of move more. They have almost like a bouncy quality. They involuntarily contract, but they don't do that when they're held tight. Okay, and then human beings often will or actually even trained, just to hold all of that musculature tight.
Erwan and I will now talk about the importance of extended orgasm for both couples and singles.
And it's the cornerstone of what has sexual expertise happen for somebody or for a couple. It's the cornerstone of it because once you can do that, you're not reliant on the novelty or the eroticism or those elements. You're not reliant on that anymore. The sensual connection, the orgasm, the high and the release, is so strong and it's going to new places and, it's like you can have great sex with somebody or with yourself at will anytime, and it really is that kind of great. It really is that kind of exciting and open and you have that feeling afterwards that just feels so amazing. In fact, you even feel better because you don't crash down afterwards.
And sometimes people think, I need to be in a couple or in a relationship to have extended orgasm. And that the opposite is true. Mm-hmm. Having extended orgasm as a person, exactly who you are right now, in a relationship, not in a relationship, is totally possible. And if you're single and you want to get into a relationship, it is the biggest asset. Particularly as a woman, if you are released and in that state of orgasm, really as much as you want, kind of like you imagine a dial on a stereo, and you can turn it up and you can turn it down depending on the situation you're in. That is so attractive. I mean, there was a woman, I think it was, I'll share more about her later actually, but she was single when she came into our programs, and she was pretty disconnected from her sensuality when she first came into the programs, and then she got really into extended orgasm as a single woman. You know, she was researching it, she was studying it, and I mean, I remember after the first year or so, or even a few months of her exploring that, it was like the color came back into her face, and she was wearing more bright colors, and she was flirting, and she was dating. Like, that was the thing that brought her out of where she was and closer to where she wanted to be. She was having so much fun.
What happens to sexual energy when it's not released? And how do you create more of it?
You know, sexual energy, sexual gratification is required for happiness, for well-being. You know, that's a lot of energy. That's the energy of being in the body. It wants to be expressed. It wants to be felt. It wants to be enjoyed, you know, moved like that. Otherwise, that tumescence, to use a technical term, otherwise it turns into tension, and it turns into negativity, and it turns into that outer shell and defensiveness and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But if you really feel it, actual real life in the genital center, in the body, approving of, even if you just a little tiny sensation, approval and acknowledgement and celebration, you know, you feel more and it starts to move.
I remember when I did the pleasure course, and I liked sex before, but then it was a whole other level. And on Saturday night when I walked...
Here, Erwan will go into greater detail, explaining how extended orgasm works and how it's different from traditional orgasm.
When we're above this line of bodily sensitivity, especially genital sensitivity, the body will go into a state of orgasm. Okay? So this is time, intensity, level of sensitivity, especially in the genital region, that will go into a state of orgasm. Now, typically, how people achieve this is they get turned on, they have a plateau period, they go up over state of orgasm, then they drop down, they end up a little bit lower than they started. Okay, this is Masters and Johnson's graph. This is how they graphed it. There's different names for all of these stages, but it's basically getting turned on, plateau, peak, you know, descent, basically. Okay. Now, the ascent to orgasm normally is tension. The person holds even more tension, thrusts even faster, holds even more tension in the genitals, okay, and goes up, spikes themselves up to a high level of sensitivity. Like, even if you do it now, if you just lock your genitals like a kegel, you just kind of lock them and hold them and lock them and hold, you notice you can kind of spike the sensitivity up a little bit. If you're with somebody and you're turned on, you know, you might even get it above that level of orgasm. But as soon as you relax the genital center, the musculature will go through a rapid set of involuntary contractions. Boom, 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 boom. You drop below the level of orgasm. So it's very quick. This is typically 3 to 5 seconds. And for women, it's typically 9 to 12 involuntary contractions. For males, it's typically 6 to 9 involuntary contractions, typically, okay? And this is a peak orgasm, okay? So this is standard peak orgasm, some involuntary contractions created for building up a quick spike of sensation. Nothing wrong with that. People like to have it. It's fun. All right. Now, if instead you take your time, set up a little visiting dignitary, have a little chocolate, have a little tea, you know, that kind of thing. You're relaxed, you've got some good music on, you know, much more gradual approach. You know, maybe you even meditate, not in some like otherworldly way, but you really feel your body, and you come into your body and your feet, and, you know, like that, and, you know, maybe even look in the mirror, all of that. But you're basically relaxed. And you've used the genital center as a focal point, as a focal area, as we've been training you to do. Alicia demonstrated it with her elbow, and I think we all felt more in her elbow. You know, even recollecting it, I kind of have to rub it out. So use your genital center as a focal point. You're relaxed. When you reach that level of sensitivity where the genital musculature will involuntarily move, you're relaxed. So instead of tense, 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 you reach that high level and then rapidly and you fall. Instead, you're relaxed, you're relaxed, you're relaxed. You reach that high level and then the muscles start involuntarily contracting. They can just continue to do that. They can continue to do that. We've done demonstrations for over an hour where Alicia's involuntarily contracting for her toes going and her genitals involuntarily contracting and because she's relaxed. Okay? Normally we do it for about 15 or 20 minutes, but the truth is you can do it for as long as you want to. The body can stay in that state. It's not going to wear itself out. It's not going to harm you or anything like that because you're relaxed. Even here, orgasm only happens when the person finally releases the musculature. That's why some people have difficulty with orgasm because it's so locked up that they can't release it there. It's a more severe version of the thing that we were talking about before. There's so much holding, and you know, even if the person does have sex, there won't be the release and that kind of thing. You don't have that issue, but that's an extreme form of that. So even for this kind of orgasm, there has to be some release. For this kind, this dome, there's just a lot more release, a lot more sensitivity, a lot more feeling, a lot more relaxation. So the musculature can stay in that involuntary contraction. Now, the other thing that you can notice from my diagram here is that you have the potential to go much higher in intensity, much higher in intensity with extended orgasm than you do with traditional orgasm. You can feel a lot more. The more relaxed and subtle, the more sensitive you are, the higher you can go. Masters and Johnson's gave a whole bunch of signs of orgasm: involuntary contractions, engorgement, swelling, darkness around the eyes, light sheen of perspiration, all the rest of this kind of stuff. Involuntary contractions is the hallmark, but we add in a 13th sign of orgasm. They didn't add it in because they're like rigorous scientists and you have to be able to measure and see everything. They filmed people. We add in release. Because there's a lot of people nowadays who are calling something that doesn't have release, that's really edging, extended orgasm. So that's how you really want to qualify it.
Whether we're doing our daily practice or a demonstration in the Yoga of Relationship course for singles and couples in Mexico or in San Francisco, extended orgasm adds a whole new dimension to sexuality. It's like having a superpower that you can use any place, anytime.
Like, it gives you superpowers if you're at a bar with somebody or you're in bed with somebody or you're, you know, doing whatever.
In yoga. That's when that was another moment after I was experiencing extended orgasm and I was in yoga and I was like,